Hello and welcome to Shay Zasaa and a Zasaa Zooms In. And today I've got the lovely Lola with me. Hey Lola.
Hello.
Thank you for coming back.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Okay, what are we talking about today?
Manners and etiquette.
Aren't they the same thing?
I don't think so.
What are manners?
I think manners, you can tell what good manners and bad manners are pretty much across board, across cultures. I think etiquette is usually a bit more specific or subjective to...
We should have had Funke on this. Because
actually, she would have been able to educate us better
on the etiquette thing. Funke, this
yes.
is a shout out to you. When are you coming on Shay Zasaa to talk about etiquette? Yeah. That's for you, Funke. Please take note. Sure. Okay, so you think that because I feel like I agree with you, but I think that they're intertwined. It can be a bit cultural in the sense that, typical example, Yoruba culture. Mm-hmm. A typical Yoruba girl greeting an elder person would kneel down to greet that person. That is considered good manners in the Yoruba culture.
Yes, that's true.
Is that good etiquette or is that good manners? Do you understand what I mean?
I think you can separate manners from etiquette. I don't know, look, I'm not an expert in that. This is just what I think.
Yeah.
I think etiquette is sometimes... you can almost define it as in a more formal, social formal environment.
Okay,
so a Yoruba girl kneeling down to greet an elder, you're demonstrating good manners. It may not translate to another. Oh, it won't translate.
It won't translate
to another culture.
Unless, they'll be like,
what's going on? Kind of thing. But it doesn't have anything to do with etiquette because the same girl could sit in a dinner table and start kind of scuffing her food with her hand.
So I guess
and somebody would say that's not good.
So etiquette is maybe more the social.
I kind of feel.
I think that's what.
Feel it's. Let me be honest. I don't have a lot of time for etiquette. Because I kind of feel like it's something that the elite use to kind of make.
Well, you see, it's funny
people
because
they don't think are in their level feel a bit because why is it that do
you know what I hear you, and it's funny because I'm trying to think of what Funke would have said that etiquette is, and I think she says it's good manners. I think she puts it down to manners, but obviously in a social setting.
I guess you've got to have good manners to kind of take etiquette seriously. I think.
Yeah,
I think that would be a foundation. And etiquette has its place, and it definitely had its place in the world, at least certainly 50 years ago, where But I just kind of
But you're right. I do think that there's a certain of elitism that comes with etiquette. Like when you say, like I was watching. Oh, you are with me on this. I was watching one of the Housewives. I don't say that's probably. I was watching, and there was I can't remember which. I think it was Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And someone was given her glass, her drink in the wrong glass, and she complained.
She had a meltdown.
And the other person was like, "Oh, for goodness' sake, it's just a glass." And she was like, "No, it tastes different in this." Yeah. So I think that you're right. There's a certain level of. I mean, does it really taste different in the other? But there's a certain level of. This is how we do it. Yeah. This shows that we have been educated in a certain way. This shows that we know what is right. Yeah. But like you said, etiquette is subjective because what is etiquette in Japan? What is good etiquette in Japan? Okay, let's even use. I don't want to use places I don't know. Let me use Nigeria. So eating food with your hands in Nigeria is not bad etiquette. No, it's not rude. It's not I mean, certain foods. Yeah, we have cutlery. Certain foods, is not. Yeah. Whereas
it's acceptable.
It could be in. I mean, I don't know. Are there any foods we eat in? Okay, chips.
But even that, if look, I'll give you an example. I had a business lunch a couple of days ago, and no joke, we had chips, and the side was chips. So,
she didn't disgrace me.
Everybody use a fork and knife to because that was. But obviously, if I buy fish and chips at home or with friends or we're out, of course apart from that wooden fork, so I don't know.
But do you think? Okay, let's come back to your business dinner. Do you think that if you had used your hands, what do you think would have happened?
I mean, I was with people I was comfortable with anyway. even though two of them I was meeting for the first time. But it was, you know.
Oh, so was it small? It wasn't.
It was just 4 people.
Ah, no, they would have. They would have spotted you.
They would have spotted me.
They could have gone.
Look, let me tell you what. I'm not gonna lie. When I'm in a formal situation or where I don't know people, I'm not the first to eat. You know, I kind of watch what you're doing.
But you see, but this is so interesting you say that, because I tend to. I mean, to be fair, I know quite a bit of etiquette, and that's just. I was brought up knowing it, as opposed to they didn't teach me that this is etiquette, but just the way certain things were. So I know quite a bit of etiquette just because, and maybe that is because we've identified that you are not really Nigerian, but that maybe that's because of the non-Nigerian bits that I have in me. But I think that there's certain things that if I'm not sure of, just like you, I will wait to see what the other people do and then follow suit. But I wonder whether. Why is that? I mean, is this like herd mentality? As in, why can't I just do what I want to do?
I mean, in that case, I was afraid of giving up a bad impression, you know, because like you're just meeting you for the first time and you're digging your chips and all that. But like you said, it's not that you know. I don't know how to. I mean, I don't want to tell you where I've been and things like that. So that's not a problem. But you know, if I wouldn't even normally have chips. You know, it was just, it just seemed like such an informal lunch to chips and a sandwich, you know. Yeah. And
how did you eat the sandwich with a knife and fork?
Yes. In fact, I didn't eat the bread in the end because I could not bring myself to eat bread with. So I just kind of took out the filling and was just eating it with my chips because I could not live with myself if I used a knife and fork to eat bread.
But as a son, you
No. So unfortunately, the waitress, when she came to bring it, probably thought I didn't like, but I just took out which was quite substantial, to be fair. Took out the filling and you know, ate that with the chips. You know,
it always reminds me of. Did you ever watch Pretty Woman?
Yes.
You know when that thing when she didn't know. Because I think that, I mean, we're kind of going off a bit, but I think that I'm more interested in why we feel we have to conform, if you know what I mean. And I get it because I do it too.
Look, I was at a I don't know, some sort of training thing, and they said, oh, what animal are people most like? You know, so like lion, okay, cats, okay, dogs. And the trainer said, no, we're mostly like sheep. We follow the trend. That's why when you see somebody who's, you know, a bit different, you know, everybody's looking or giving them a hard time, or you know, So, and of course, you know that if they're going to give you a hard time if you're different, are you going to do that?
You don't want to, deliberately put yourself in that spot.
So we that's just human nature. We follow, we follow.
I'm a leader. You know, I mean, I guess there's pros and cons to following and to leading, but I just find it so interesting because I'm guilty of it too, where depending on the setting and how comfortable I am, and whether I'm like, well, this is me, that's your business, or whether I'm like, do you know what, I'm just going to fit in exactly as and maybe that there's wisdom in that. Maybe that's, you know,
I think you also have to read the room and know. I mean, I won't go to dinner with anyone and order spaghetti or mussels or you know, just please leave me with a nice little bit of steak and mash, or just something
so easy
simple.
To eat things.
I won't.
I've never really thought about that.
I only eat spaghetti in my house, okay, or tagliatelle or whatever it is.
Slurping.
You know, even though I kind of break it up, so it's never really that. But even still, it's just, you know.
So if you were eating spaghetti in public and you are not, just so that you guys know that I know, you are not putting the fork and spoon and rolling it and then putting it in your mouth, you know.
Listen, I'm hungry. I don't have time.
You end up slurping, so then it becomes like
and then
bad manners.
Which I think that is bad manners.
Yeah, I think that's bad manners.
If you don't eat gracefully, no, seriously, that is
chewing with your mouth open, talking with your mouth full,
talking while chewing. So and that or you're speaking to somebody on the phone, that is a big bugbear.
And you're chewing.
And they're eating, and I'm like, finish your food and, you know, call me back. Because
it's almost like they think you can't hear. I mean, I have been guilty of that, but I will always say, I'm sorry, I'm eating.
No. I guess if I'm talking on the person you're speaking to, you know. But you know, generally, if it's just I don't like that. You know.
So okay, I think we're kind of leaving etiquette on the side because we don't. I don't know, but
I I think, okay, leaving the cultural stuff aside, and we can come back to that, but I just think there are just some general foundations of what good manners is. It's about how you treat people, how you kind of read a room that you go into or a space that you go into and behave in that. And that's universal. I think human beings...
Okay, so they always say we're taught good manners, aren't we?
Yes.
So you can't teach what you don't know.
Correct.
Can you learn manners later?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes I feel like, there's some...
or by gentleness, you can.
Because there's some people that I meet, and I think, if I have a friend who I'm thinking of, and I will not mention her name, but you know yourself, and she'll say, no home training. When we talk about home training,
yes.
and that's basically good manners.
Yes.
When you say somebody has no
true.
home training, so you're saying that they haven't been trained in good manners. And I guess that's the universal good manners, not the African, or the, just like, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please and thank you.
Yeah.
And
but I find when I go to Nigeria, that's a real struggle for me.
What, the please and thank you?
There's non-existent.
Really?
Yes, because we're like, give me that pen, let me...
Oh, yeah, because...
But, go and sit there. Oh, no. Can you... But they're not even being horrible. That's just what they're used to.
But you see, isn't that... You see, how much of that is cultural as well? Because I feel like here, if you had... I mean, we're generalizing. But, somebody, like, even a boss would say, please, could you help me get the paper from the fax machine, for example? Whereas I feel like in Nigeria, be like, go and get the paper.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that is cultural, how much of that is manners.
But I was, like I always say, born and raised in Nigeria.
We've always said on this place that you had a slightly different, like a very open-minded type of upbringing, family type of thing. I think from what I've seen, just comparing you to.
But a lot of people around us were like that as well. So I mean,
don't you think
that was just their circle? But so that's why it's shocking to me when people don't say...
Yeah, but do you think that if that person that I just described that said, go and get that paper, was in a different setting, I feel like there's something in the Nigerian culture that when you are superior in work, in whatever, there's almost like a need to be rude. Or not to not be polite. Maybe not so much be rude, but not be polite. Whereas if he had been in somewhere else, for example, he might have said, please... And I'm saying he because I don't know why.
Well, he wouldn't have. I mean, you won't. That's why a lot of people that this so-called Japa trend are getting into trouble because you're coming here and talking to people as you would back there, but it's not acceptable here. You can't tell an 18-year-old to shut up. They will tell you I'm an adult. I'm also paying tax like you. What's up?
But do you think that that's not a cultural thing then, rather than a manners thing? Because when you're telling an 18-year-old to shut up, it's because you feel culturally that an 18-year-old as a child, you have no business to talk to me as an adult. So it's not even about being polite or not. It's that I'm an adult, you're a child, period.
So maybe the culture...
Do you know what I mean? So I think, I do, but that's what I'm saying. So I feel like this whole thing, both etiquette and manners, is so intertwined with culture, intertwined with...
It is actually.
With what...
Guess it is.
Because when you think... And I think I've said this on this... I've said it here before, where sometimes if you hear me speak to my mom, you will think I'm being rude. Because my mother is not of African, and the way we talk is very ordinary to us. But to an African, it's like, what? Did you just say that to your mom? So I think that, so it's almost like, it's that thing of understanding the culture of a place and what is expected, maybe.
But how do we come from the same place and have different cultures? Because I remember when I got married, everyone was mommy. And I said, I have just one mother. And that's the only person I've ever called mommy in my whole life.
Because you know what? They have...
Her sisters, auntie this, friends, auntie this. I've never called anyone else. But, I mean, I've had to kind of explain and coach my kids because they're like, how many grandmas do we have? Because, grandma, I've got great grandma, this grandma. So, and we're from the same place. So how did that happen?
But you see, that's the thing. You have the culture of the African culture, then you have the Nigerian culture, then you have the Yoruba culture, then you have the inside the family culture, then you have the nuclear family culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that and there's always the opportunity to create your own culture in your own
within your own
unit.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what it is. So somebody somewhere in your husband's has created a culture that is.
But it's not even just there. I mean, that actually I now realize.
It's
quite, a lot of people. But that
I actually thought, but I've said this thing, and I will say it again. Your family is different. I wanted to say it's not normal, but that would sound wrong. It's different.
I can tell you a full story.
It's not from my mouth that I would say that you're not typical. Do you get what I mean? Because I think that I would have said what you were talking about was the Yoruba culture. I would have said that, but clearly it's not the entire Yoruba culture. And I guess it depends on how, because even within Yoruba culture, you have the Ondo,
that's true. You have the different tribes and how they behave.
I think culture, and this is what makes manners so hard.
Yeah.
Because culture is because again, just using the typical Igbo and Yoruba culture.
Yes,
it's completely different.
Yeah.
The expectations, the way you know what I mean. And if you don't understand one culture, you will think that they're being rude, even though they're not.
Yeah.
And I have some brothers that have the northern culture.
Okay.
Northern Nigeria culture, completely different.
That's true.
Completely different. And you're just like, you have to hold in that. Okay, no, he didn't mean it that way. You know what I mean? Because you just.
So is this manners question that we're battling with a struggle for us that have multicultural interactions? Is that because, I'm just thinking in within some circles that I'm in, none of these things come up as issues. They're good manners and they're bad manners, and we can almost certainly put one in each box and know what we're talking about. So is it where we have a series, because within our background of Nigeria, there are different, even within the Yoruba tribe, there are different cultures, not to talk of the wider country that has their own different ways of, because, if your son married, if you're a Yoruba woman and your son marries a non-Nigerian even, presumably you won't expect her to come and kneel down. That will not be a mark for you of whether or not she has good manners.
Yeah. You will give her grace because you know that she has a different culture. But then I think most of the Nigerian moms would then train her to kneel down.
To do that, yeah.
To kneel down and say, in our culture, because you're now one of us,
this is how
this is what we expect you to do, which is fair enough because you can train them. But I think it's funny because I was talking about this on here again when I first graduated and I went for a job at HSBC. Now, HSBC is the one that will say, they do all the adverts where they say in Japan, this is like this.
Yes.
But funny, and I only realized this after I said it on here. When I went for the job, the particular job that I went for, they just wanted me to have an understanding of the culture, not to speak the language.
Okay.
They said we can get translators anywhere, but we want, because I'd lived in the country, they were like, we want someone that understands the culture to know whether this will be acceptable, whether this will be considered. No, not Japan.
I want to go.
No, this was the Arab world. So they were talking about.
Okay.
So they wanted to understand the Arab culture.
Okay.
And they were saying it's not. So it wasn't the interview was not the fact that one might have had the language was a bonus. That was not what they were looking for.
Of it, yeah.
What they were looking for was somebody that understood the intonations, the nuances, the things that, you know what I mean. And since then they've come out with all these adverts.
Yes.
Many years later. But I guess that's what they were trying to say. That I didn't get it at the time. I just thought, so they don't want me to speak the language, But what, and the guy was saying to me, he said, we just want somebody who gets it so that we can understand the culture, so that we can know how to approach, whatever they were trying to do, whatever. And that was the first time that I ever stopped to think about how understanding the culture could make a difference to how you responded behave, or how you, because really, I was brought up in this culture, this is how I behave. Why do I need to understand the culture to, you know what I mean? But I guess when you're trying to break into it, which is what they were trying to do or whatever, you need to understand where they're coming from. If I do this, would it be considered rude? If I do this, so I guess it's that whole thing of manners and culture is very...
It's actually, now that we're talking about it, it's a lot less clear. There's a lot of...
But I think you're probably right, is where multiculturalism is involved. Because, one would want to say, you would think that to say please is basic good manners.
Yeah.
And I would like to know, is there somewhere where saying please is not... I would like to know, I don't know, maybe there is somewhere in the world where saying please is not a big deal.
I don't hear it from a lot of Nigerians.
I
to
don't
be
hear
honest with you.
Yeah. And I get annoyed with my children because I taught them to say please first.
Yeah.
And some of them, 2 of them say it last. I don't know why. But because you haven't said it first, I feel like you're not going to say it. You know, so once I don't hear the please, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're planning to say it last. But I'm like, why are you saying it last? I'm not even going to... I haven't heard what you're saying because I didn't hear the please.
I've frustrated my children so much. They say, please, may I go to the camp, please?
Yeah.
Now I'm actually hearing it in my son's voice. Please, may I stay after school, please? I'm like, why do you don't have to
to put it twice. Yeah, but you see, the thing is, because with my kids, because they don't start with it, the 2 that don't start, because they don't start with it, I already have we have already been rude right there.
Yeah.
But they're planning to end with it. And it was one of them that said to me, Mom, I haven't even finished the question. I'm going to say that chance. You know, but you see, I wonder if that thing of please is universal. Like we think it's universal, where please and thank you. I think thank you should be universal.
I think if you're asking for something, I don't know if I know that many cultures outside of the West and Sub-Saharan Africa. But I would think that's a basic human. You want something from somebody and you are not saying please in whatever language or format whatever. I think that's a minimum what you should kind of aspire to do, really. If you're going to say you have good manners, if you're you know.
But you see, okay, let me give you another example. So, for example, and I say this quite scared, you know, I think that if you are coughing, covering your mouth,
it's the standard, please.
Basic, right? But I've been to some countries where I don't even think it's the individuals. It's not what they do. And you know that thing of where they will now...
London Underground. Because every time I'm on the tube, there's somebody who has I'm like...
they're not covering them up?
Yes.
And then you know this thing of like spitting. Again, I think... I'm like, nowhere in the world can it be okay, but there's some countries where it's okay. As in they just, you know, and then they don't just spit. You will hear them.
You have to bring it all up.
You know what I mean? So sometimes I just wonder whether there is actually. I mean, the please and thank you is the only ones that I think I can justify and say that across board. But I think that in other things it does tend to be quite cultural in what is.
Okay, accepted. How about manners being about how you treat somebody?
Well, I think that is what manners is as well.
Yeah.
So it's about how you... But the person coughing is not treating you anyhow. They are coughing. Why do you want them to cover their mouth? You know, they may not see it as having anything to do with you.
Probably,
so the please and the thank you.
About you.
So the please and thank you, yes, is directly related to you. But something like coughing or spitting, how is that your problem? Do you understand what I mean? So it's a very interesting...
You're like, they should cover... I'm like, if you're coughing, stay home. Okay, we've had COVID, all right? So one cough, stay out. I'm joking.
But you know, so it's really interesting because I think, I mean, like, and then if we're now bringing the etiquette, obviously, etiquette is going to say cover your mouth. Etiquette is going to say...
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
etiquette has a higher standard then. So it's more, you know, it's definitely more formal. You're thinking actively about what you're doing. It's not just every day, like, please and thank you. You actually have to make sure you do things properly in this set. And so in theory, maybe etiquette then is putting more focus on the other person. And that is why we were saying it's almost that elitist thing, like I know how to, but it's almost like they're considering other people in certain things where one might not. At some level, level, yes. You know what I mean? But it can be. So it's a very interesting one. I need to get Funke on to talk about etiquette. That would be really good to kind of help to expand. Yeah, but you probably have to come back. The different layers of that, because like I said, what I see of it is just, you know, an elite group, you know, making others feel like they're not up to scratch. But then at some level, if you walk into a room, a library, for example, and you're on the phone and you're going, I mean, that's not good etiquette. Yeah. And that's basic, isn't it? Yeah. So you would think. So I would concede that as something that we need in society. But I'm not sure about the other stuff, like, you know, for example, these gentlemen's clubs in London that, you know, you kind of go to and you have to come, you can't come in shit. You have to wear a jacket. You can't use what is that etiquette? You can't use your phone in just in. No, but is that etiquette or is that not just the culture of that club? But that's the etiquette. They will tell you. So etiquette and culture, I wonder if they're interchangeable somewhat.
Do you know
I mean,
what I mean?
culture is a broad brush anyway.
Yeah.
Because, the way you do things in a company is the culture of the company.
Yeah.
The way you
So
attract is the culture.
the culture.
Etiquette is probably a subset of culture, because culture has such a broad definition anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think because I obviously I think good manners are, but like I said, I have fallen short so many times because I don't understand the culture of the
But that doesn't mean you have bad manners.
but they interpret it. A lot of people interpret it as bad manners because they have expectations of me. Because I'm a Yoruba girl, they expect me to understand the culture, and then when I don't, it's that I'm being rude. As opposed to she doesn't understand the culture. Now, if I was not a Yoruba girl, they would give me grace.
Yes.
But because I'm a Yoruba girl, you are expected to know that you should be kneeling down. You should be whatever it is I'm supposed to.
So why haven't you learnt it then?
So let me kneel down for him.
That is because you're not supposed to do that to somebody younger than you. Hello.
Are you younger than me? Please don't be giving that away here. Anyway, what do you think? Etiquette versus culture? No, not culture. Manners. Etiquette versus manners. What do you think? Yeah. We've had a roundabout talk. We started off in one direction. We've ended up in another direction. Are they the same? Are they different? Does it matter? Are both of them important? Is good manners, what did we say? Are good manners a universal thing, or can what you think is good manners be considered bad manners somewhere else? We actually don't know the answer to all these questions. That's why we're throwing them back at you. And please get in touch. Let us know what you think. Follow us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Rock your own gorgeous.